Well, hello there. Today I'm going to be talking about the string API, and because it's such a big and thick sort of a thing with lots of methods and lots of different ways to use it, I've made this list and I'm going to tell you about a couple of these different things. First of all, you know what a string is. It's a string of characters. Character is like a one letter, and then string is more like a word or a sentence. Okay, so the Java doc is pretty hefty. You go in here and you look at all of the methods in string, you get this. Whoa. So I've picked out a few that I use most that are my favorite ones, and I'm going to show you some examples. Okay, so let's start with contains. I'm going to make a string here. Supercalifragilistic. That's what Mary Poppins says. And then, to see all of the string methods, I could just do a double quotes there and do a dot, and then I would see all the things that are available to me. The one that I'm going to show you right now is contains, and I would put a string in here. Like say I was looking for fra, a little piece that's in that word. I'm just going to CISO this so we can see the result. And someday it might do this for me. Okay, there it is. True. Alright, so if I put something that was not there, like a frax, then it's going to say false. So that's how you use contains. Super easy. Be using that a lot. Okay, next, trim. So trim you use a lot in web forms because you want to make sure that people are not adding extra little spaces like that. So if I had this string and I trimmed it like that, then it's going to take away beginning and end spaces. You can't really see what's happening there, so what I'm going to do is add a little character. Okay, so that's where that is, and then if I take the trim off, you'll see the spaces in there. Okay, so that's contains, trim, replace. What shall I replace? Okay, so let's say I wanted to turn this into a leet password. Leet is when you have certain letters that you convert to numbers, and it's kind of like a programmery thing. So in leet, all A's are 4s. So I'm going to replace all the A's with 4s. Okay, so that's what happened there. And then I could string these along. I could do another replace like this. And then I could replace all the I's for 1s. And we're getting closer to a leet representation of that, but I think you get the picture. Okay, the reason I'm able to string them along like this is because all of these methods, they return a string. And there's an important thing to know about that. So see the way over here, after the semicolon, you've got a string being returned? That is pretty much the case for all of the operations on string objects. And the reason for that is strings are immutable. Immutability means that once you have created the object, you can't change it. And that's part of the implementation of strings in Java that makes it more efficient. That's why they're immutable. But I'm going to show you what it looks like in real life, and a common mistake that people make is something like this. I'm just going to do the same thing as I was doing. I want to change those O's for zeros. So you might kind of think you could go like food, replace like that, replace the O's with the O's, zeros. I'm going to print it out. Food. And I'm going to stop that from printing so you can see clearly what's going on. Okay, so I replaced the O's with the O's, but as you can see in my output, I'm not getting the zeros showing up. And the reason for that is because this string is immutable, when I do replace on this variable, it's not actually going to change what's inside. What you have to do is you have to catch the return. I can actually do it like this. Just say food equals, and that's going to return the string. And then it's made the change. Okay, that's an important thing to know about because people sometimes make that error. Strings are immutable. Okay, next, printf. All right, so printf, this is a word that comes from C, and printf is the equivalent of CISO in Java. And it allows you to do other kinds of things so that you don't have to end up doing a bunch of concatenation with these pluses, which I know was pretty difficult well, not difficult for you guys, but you know, it can get a little messy when you're doing that like Mad Libs exercise from way back. Okay, so I have a little example here, so I don't really want to type all this stuff out. And okay, so here we have variables of different types, and we're going to print them out like this. So this is system out format. You could easily do printf, and that would be the same. And what it's going to do is, for each of these things, it's going to replace the variable that's here after the string inside of here. So this one, that knows that that's going to be an int, so you're using a D, and this is just a string, so it's an S. Let me run it for you so you can see what happens. So each one of these variables is getting substituted inside the string like that, so that we're getting it formatting out in a nice way. Secured 99%, I can't have that. Secured 99% and A grade. Okay. Yeah, that's how that works. So I just want to show you like how you might be using it a lot. So say we have some strings. Let's do what we did last weekend. Where did you go? With my friends. Okay. And then, so I'm just going to show you what it would have looked like before. So we would have had something like, this weekend I went to, and I put the plus in there, and then I put the where here, and then another plus in there. Yeah, this could get kind of, you know, if I had a very long string, like if you had a very involved thing going on, that could get sort of unwieldy. So let's see, this weekend I went to with who? Okay, this guy needs to have this /n, so the reason it's all clumped up there, so I put that /n and that makes a new line. Okay, I'm actually going to stop this from printing out though. Let's just comment that out. And the short key for that you should be familiar with. I use it a ton. So for me, it's the Windows key and the question mark. And I guess for Apple people, it's the Apple key. And if you want to find out what it is on your computer, you should right click, then go to format, source. No, sorry. What I'm looking for is comment, toggle comment, which is in here under source, and it's showing me that it's Apple 7. I didn't know that. Apple 7. Oh, that works too. All right, well, I have two ways to do it. Anyway, learn that. You'll be using it a lot. All right, where was I? Back to the beach. All right, so in the new way, using printf, instead of doing it like this, we would do it like this. I went to the, and this one I went to the, I'm going to put a percentage sign and an S because that's a string. Where is a string? Beach with. And then I'm going to do another string. And then instead of using these concatenations, you just put your variables with commas like that. Cool. And then I can easily put a dot without having to concatenate that thing on the end. So that's pretty sweet. Okay, printf, there's actually a lot more to it, but I'm not going to go into it because you guys have the internet. But I guess the part that you might need to look up in future is which format specifiers for which thing. Because if you're using an integer, then you need to use this D, or a float, it's an F. And I've been using these strings. Well, the big S is if I wanted to capitalize something. I went to the beach. Okay, that's printf. All right, now on to equals versus equal. We use this for logic, and we've talked a little bit about it before, but let me show you how it works. Okay, so say I have a string. I'm going to be egotistical and use my name here. I'm going to compare these. Okay, so this is actually a mistake that lots of people, including me, make regularly. So I want to check these things, see if they're the same. I might do this. Are they going to be the same? Is this going to return true or false? True. Okay, so this is another little thing that I want to tell you about. So because of the way strings are implemented in Java, there's actually this thing called a string pool, and it contains all of the strings. So once I've made one June spoon, it's actually just using the same memory pointer to point to this June spoon so that we don't make two different strings. But if we were to do it like this and actually make a new instance of a string, here I'm specifying that I want a brand new one. Now I'll find that they're not the same. Okay, so this is not what we use to compare strings. This is actually what it's doing is it's trying to find out if the same memory location, the same reference is for these two strings, and we very rarely want to do that. What we usually want to do is use this equals, and that will check the actual contents of the string. Okay, so it's true in that case now, and it's also going to be true in this case. All right, one more thing that is pretty useful, and I actually almost pretty much just use this one, is that, so here I've got a capital, and I wouldn't want to be going around trying to implement this myself, so I can do this equals ignore case. So then I can check if there's capitals there, it doesn't matter. That's pretty useful. Okay, that's that stuff. Equals versus equals. This is going, I thought that this would take longer, but I hope I'm not going too fast. Okay, compare to. All right, this is a more tricky one. So I'm going to just make a string so I can show you what compare to does. So it compares one string to another string. So that's going to compare the string before the dot to the one that's in the parentheses, and then it's going to return me an int. What sort of an int? Mysterious. Let's see. I'm going to check A and B. I'm going to check A and A first. Okay, 0. A and B -1. Oh. B and A 1. Okay, so there's something logical going on here. There's a pattern. I'll show you what this compare to does. So it's going to say which is the, it's going to compare the strings alphabetically. Okay, so when I'm going in here and I just pressed my Windows key here to go and open the declaration. So I'm pressing that key and then clicking on here, and then it brings me to the declaration of compare to. And this is actually Java itself. I like going down here and looking at these things. It's pretty cool. All right, so this is the big words for it. Value less than something if the string is lexicographically less than the string argument. Okay, that just means that it comes before it in the alphabet. But here this isn't the implementation because I guess they want to check if it's Latin or not. So let's check the compare to in string Latin 1. Here we have, it's converted them to bytes and it's checking value 1. It's checking value with other, but the actual meat is in this method. Let's see. Compare to. Okay, so here's where it's actually doing the comparison. We've got value and other, those are our two strings. And what it's checking is whether the car value of one is greater than the other. All right, so car value we looked at before, and I guess you could just sort of think about it in terms of ASCII chart. So the car value, let me do one of those tables. The car value of A, big A at least, is 65 and B is 66. So as you go up in the alphabet, these numbers go up. That's the that's the int value. So it's like its numerical value. And what this compare to does is it basically just subtracts one from the other. So I imagine this word being like a big minus sign. So B is going to be 66, but it's the small b, so that would be 98. So say we have 98 minus 97 for A, then you're going to get 1. So you'll get a positive number. And if you do it the other way around, then you get a negative number. That's how I understand it. Now, it's not going to give you the exact difference, I think, because if we put something like C here, I don't think it's going to give me -2. Oh, it is going to give me -2. All right, so this is going to give me the exact distance between them. And if it's negative, that means that this one does not come before that one. I'm not going to be able to explain that. Anyway, with the examples, you can kind of figure it out and look at what comes before what. Okay, and then the other way around. So if you actually wanted to use this to make something that alphabetically sorts, you'd have to have some if statements checking all those things, checking whether they're positive, negative, or 0. But if I was doing this, I would probably just use collections.sort. All right, so usually I would like get an array list. So we can do array list, and that's going to be of type string. And then I'm going to initialize my array list like this as list. This is a handy way if you want to just jam some stuff into an array list. So you would have your A like this, and you would have your B like this, and then that would actually do the alphabetical sorting for you. This is not part of the lesson that we're doing right now. It's not part of the topic, but it's kind of in the same realm. So just, you need to know how compare to works. It's one of the methods that's part of object also. This is the string implementation of it. It will tell you which comes first in the alphabet. Okay, now this stuff I use this stuff all the time, searching, because you're searching through strings for stuff. All right, I'm going to try and go through each of these in a little more detail. So substring is going to pull out a little chunk of a string. I'm going to write a method that checks, it's going to be called isPlural. Let's see, what do I want to check in there? Oh, bananas. Bananas. Okay, and then I'm going to print it out. We can get a true or false. isPlural doesn't exist yet. So I'm going to use the quick fix here so that Eclipse will make it for me. Okay, cool. All right, got the isPlural method returning a char array. That should be Boolean. Okay, and I'll return false just to stop it from complaining like that. Okay, just running it so I can get my false. All right, so I'm going to use, there's a few different ways of doing this, but I'm going to use substring just so I can show you how it works. So let's say, okay, I'm going to print, that's my first baby step, string dot, I want to get the last letter. So what I'm trying to pull out is just that S, and I'm going to take a chunk. So I'm going to substring, and here I've got the beginning index and the end index. Well, I know for sure that the end index is going to be string.length. That's the end of the string over there. And then the beginning index is going to be string.length minus 1. Okay, let's see if that's going to give me the last letter of bananas. Okay, it gave me the S. That's what I wanted. Alright, so now that I have the S, I'm just going to make this into a variable. I'm going to say last letter is that. Then I'm going to check it with an if statement. If last letter, and then I'm going to do my dot equals, but you know, you might as well just use the ignore case unless you have a reason not to. S. I don't need these for now. Return true. Okay, so bananas is plural and banana is not plural. Now, if I was doing this in real life, I would have written a test before I made this method, and that would mean that I wouldn't have to do all this printing out all the time. But I just sort of thought it was too much to cram in the TDD along with all of the string stuff, so I'm going to be talking about that in the next lecture. The next one of these I want to make is going to be counting the number of A's in bananas. And the reason that I'm making this is I want to show you how to use this index of. Or actually, I guess, maybe, yeah, that's car at. I'm going to do car at first. Okay, let's just stop you printing out for a second and see what we have. No, okay, cool. All right, then yet again, this is going to return an int. And I'm just going to set that to 0. Okay, now how I'm going to count the number of A's is I'm going to use this thing called char at. And char at returns the value at a particular index. And the reason I'm going to use that is because I'm going to just loop through my string and I'm going to count the A's. Oh look, no, it's not an array.length, it's a string.length. And then, so for an array, you can use .length, the member variable, but for strings, that's a method, so you have to put the parentheses on there. Okay, so I'm going to say if the character at I, so that's going to increase. Oh, it's a character, so I'm going to do it like this. Plus, plus. Okay, there's 3 A's in bananas. 1, 2, 3, yes. All right, so that's char at. It's going to give you a character, and the other one that's kind of the opposite of this guy is index of. Okay, so let's try that. All right, so it's going to give me, so instead of getting back a char, I'm going to put in a char. And for this one, I'm going to put in an O because there's lots of O's in my username. Okay, so index of O. Now, what do we expect this to return? Returns the index within this string of the first occurrence of the specified character. Okay, let's see. We get 1. So here we've got 0, that's the J, and then O is the 1. So it's gonna, the first time you do this, if you do it like this, it's gonna give you the first occurrence of the character. But if you wanted to start a little further along, like say we wanted to start it here, like let's try and get this O. So we got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see, we want to see if there's an O after index 5. Okay, so it's telling me that the next O occurs at 6, right there. Okay, these are absolutely essential parts of the language, and you'll be using them a lot. So for practice, I want you to pick a couple of these. There's we're going to be covering quite a bit of stuff, so I didn't want to give you too much work right away. But for exercises, there's this thing called Coding Bat, and you can go in here and practice. Okay, so I recommend you make an account, and you can work through these. The stars get along here as you finish them. And there's some string puzzles. So we've got string 1, string 2, and string 3, and string 1 is the easiest. So you should pick some of these. They have cute little puzzles. Given a string, return bad. Okay, so you have to put your code in here, and this will help you practice the methods in string. So your exercise is going to be to pick a couple of these. Don't do all of them because we have a lot more stuff coming up. Okay, that is a quick introduction to my favorite parts of the String API. Good luck, see you soon.